Dee had mentioned that you're having Daniel Nahmod next week. How excited are you? He's an amazing musician. He is not traveling as much, but I have to share with you a little story this morning. I have been traveling more recently, and just recently I was in Colorado, and I checked into my hotel, and I was getting ready to do a talk the next day, and it was not a hotel that I was used to. And as I sat down and prepared a couple of things for my talk the next day, I had a little bit of free time. But the weather was not on my side, and so I was kind of stuck in that hotel room. But I couldn't find the remote to the television. And I'm not a big television kind of guy, but when you're stuck in a hotel room, it's about all you have to do. So I went over and I manually, the old-fashioned way, get up on your 2 feet and walk over to the television and push the button. And I turned it on, and speaking of a song that gets stuck, because I didn't have a remote, I couldn't change the channel. It didn't have anything other than an on-off switch on the actual monitor. So guess what was on? Dora the Explorer. I had about 6 hours to kill, just me and Dora. Anyone here know who Dora the Explorer is? Yeah, we could sing that song. It's easy. And as I sit there with my new friend Dora, who I watched years and years and years ago when I was fostering foster children, it was what we would do, sit and watch Dora. And what I noticed just last month was Dora is still 5 years old. I mean, it's been 17 years that she's been 5 years old. I really want to know her secret. And Dora travels the world, interestingly enough, without her parents. And that doesn't seem to be a problem. But finding the big red hill directly behind her seems to be a problem. And isn't that true for us? That we are explorers on this journey. I also love that Dora is multilingual at the age of 5, but she still can't locate the bridge that's right next to her. And what really came to me as I sat on the edge of the bed, for some reason watching hours of Dora the Explorer, what was most awkward was I answered her every time she asked a question. But what was even more awkward was sitting in silence as she stared at me, waiting for me to answer that question. I want you to pull out your daily word this morning and look at that again with me for just a moment. It says, life does not come with step-by-step directions or maps. Isn't that true? So I am likely to make mistakes as I travel my spiritual path. Yet God's grace is my assurance of divine favor despite all else. I am learning and growing as I go. One of the characters in Dora the Explorer is the map, who sings a silly song, I am the map, I am the map, I am the map. I don't know who wrote those lyrics, but I hope they made millions. And as I think about how we navigate this spiritual journey, you'll remember last time I was here, I think I mentioned I was shopping for a new car. And I have since bought a new car. And most guys will go out and look at a new car and kick the tires and look under the hood. I did none of that. I just wanted a really good stereo system and a really good navigational system because I live in my car. And I bought one with both. I even upgraded the navigational system before they delivered it to me. And that GPS system has one job, and it does a really good job of doing it. It took me a few days to figure out all of the buttons in my new car, all of the computer system. It took me even longer to figure out what I was going to call this new GPS system because I gave it some not so nice names for a while. And on my navigational system, I can program if it's a male voice or a female voice, if it's an Australian accent, a British accent, an English accent. And as I was driving and playing with the buttons, Oprah came on over my speakers. And then I turned it, and it was an Australian accent, a male voice, who I named Nigel. It just sounded like a Nigel. And then I named some other not-so-great names because I was making all the wrong turns, and I was just blaming that navigational system for my mistakes. I have since finally found a name for my GPS, and I've named her Destiny, as in destination. And what happens with that system is there is a computer, there's actually two computers on my dash, and then obviously there's a satellite in the sky and an antenna on my roof. And so that system calculates the route between where I am, because the satellite triangulates my current position, to where I want to be. Simple, right? It gives me both visual and verbal prompts to tell me how to proceed. And she often says, please proceed to the highlighted route, over and over. Destiny never says to me, well, where have you been? I mean, that's just irrelevant. She never asks me, where have you been before? She just says, this is where you are, and this is where you'd rather be. She never says, well, you asked me yesterday, and obviously you didn't listen, so I'm not going to tell you today. She just notices where I am and tells me where I'd rather be. And what I love about Destiny is she never says, you can't get there from here. She always gives me direction. You know, we are living in a time of what we in Christianity call the Lenten season, a time of letting go, a time of being aware of where we are, who we are, what we have, where we'd rather be, and letting go of some of the stuff that is in our now moment so that it is easier and more gentle and we are lighter to move in the direction of where we'd rather be. But when we're not clear about that, when we have not practiced the letting go piece, and when we have not practiced the step-by-step directional aspect of our journey, we feel confusion and chaos, depression, grief. But if you believe in Unity's 5 principles, which I assume are somewhere on this, no, they're not. Okay, well, let me just tell you. Those 5 principles, you repeat one of them each and every Sunday, that there's one power and one presence in all the universe and in your life. Many will call it God, others will call it love. Call it whatever name you want to give it. It is good. It is an energy of divine presence. And it is from that understanding that we are given tools for our daily life. We are giving direction. We are given a map for our daily life. And sometimes those directions feel like a little nudge, and sometimes they feel like a cosmic 2x4 that just came out of nowhere and slaps you across the face. Our second unity principle says that from that one power and one presence, we are born. We are the very essence of what Charles Fillmore, our Unity co-founder, said over and over. It's the hope of our glory. It is the Christ within us. And we believe that each of us has that same inherent divinity that Jesus Christ expressed fully, and we can too. And in order to help us do that, we have a spiritual law, our third unity principle, called the law of mind action. And it states that thoughts held in mind reproduce after their own kind. That whatever we're thinking and feeling in combination, whatever we think and feel long enough and strong enough, we will experience in our life in some way. And to help us gain clarity on our thoughts and our feelings, we practice our fourth unity principle, one of daily prayer and meditation. Under the direction of Spirit, we are changing, we have the ability to change our limited beliefs. And then we move into our fifth principle, the action. It's one thing to know the other four. It is another thing to put them into place in our life. That is our responsibility. Now, my GPS system, Destiny, has one job: to figure out where I am and how to get to where I'd rather be. Where I am in relationship to where God knows that I want to be. And we have within us, individually, an emotional guidance system. They are called our feelings, our emotions. And it works the same way. Your emotions are giving you constant feedback that is meaningful. It's meaningful enough that you can translate it, that you can hear it, that you can follow it. And your emotions are guiding you constantly towards what you want. Scripture says God wants to give us the desires of our heart. That's a beautiful thing. The trick here is you have to be pretty darn clear about what those desires are. That is the action piece. You have to give voice to that desire. Not just this voice, but the mind. I point here, this is the brain. Mind is in every cell of your being. You have to give voice to it. You have to honor. You have to think about it and feel about it so that when they are congruent with each other, then you have direction. You have a map that says, when you go in this direction, it feels good, or when you go in this direction, it feels not so good. Follow that emotional guidance system. But we, in our humanness, like to ask everybody else on the planet which way we should go. We like to get the opinions of others. I have not only one navigational system in my car, I have two. The one that's built in and one of the apps on my phone. I like to just ask everybody in my car, where am I going and how am I going to get there? Sometimes what I've noticed over and over is Destiny gives me one route, Garmin gives me another route, Magellan gives me another route, Waves gives me another route. They all lead to the same place. But now I have all of these opinions and there's chaos going. Abraham Hicks says, in our language, the word want is the equivalent of the word yearning, a desire that is currently unfulfilled. And when I use the word want, what I mean by it is there is an object of attention to which I want to give my focus. A desire that I give my undivided, undiluted, non-contradicted attention to. Abraham Hicks also says you cannot notice what is and complain about it and be a vibrational match to the solution of it. I love that. I'd like to put that on a sticky and put it on my coffee pot so I could remind myself every day. You cannot notice what is and complain about it and still be a vibrational match to the solution of it. Because in living the problem, you asked for the solution and Source said yes, immediately. I said in meditation there is a law that says ask and it is given. That law doesn't say ask and then worry about it and fret about it and stress out about it and wait a while and ask everybody else's opinion and then it'll be given. It just says ask and it is done. On that trip to Colorado, I had only owned the new car for 4 days. The seat wasn't even adjusted to my body. So I'm playing with all the buttons, and I know that trip well. It's a 10-hour trip from my house to Colorado Springs, where I was going to speak. I didn't need a map because I'd made that journey several times. But I took a few days after my speaking gig and took a little vacation while I was there, and I ended up on the other side of this mountain range where I didn't know how to get back. And so that's when I plugged in my destination into Destiny, into Garmin, into Waves. and all of these opinions came flooding in. And what I didn't know, because the car was so new, it was still set for the default factory setting. I didn't know that. And so Destiny took me from Colorado to New Mexico to Texas and back into Oklahoma, where I live. Now, just imagine a map in your mind for a moment. That's a little bit of a journey. That 10-hour drive took me 14 and a half hours. I still got home. I spent way too much money on gas. But the thing was, the app on my phone had already been reset from factory settings to a more specific understanding that I don't care what route you give me, I just want the one that is the fastest. The GPS in the car that had not been specifically set said, we're just going to take freeways only. So Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, up through Oklahoma. And that is what I want to talk to you about this morning, is the understanding that God wants to give you the desires of your heart. There are general desires, factory set, default desires that may take you where you want to go, but it may take a while to get there. And after you move from that generality consciousness into a more specific, focused, giving your attention to that desire, giving it voice, giving it all of the intuition and wisdom within you, and trusting it, big word, trust, you might make it a little faster, a little easier, a little more gently. Charles Fillmore, our Unity co-founder, said, "The truth you know is the truth you use." I love that. The truth you know is the truth you use. It is only otherwise it is only theory and has no power to change your life. We use our 5 daily principles in our life situations to help keep us in the flow of well-being and to have a greater awareness of the presence of the divine. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron says, "The truth you believe and cling to makes you unavailable to hear anything else." I was obviously not trusting Destiny, my GPS, if I had to plug it into all the other external GPS systems in my car. Source, however, that God knowing, that God mind within you, that GPS system within you, is calling you towards whatever desire you have and whatever desire you have vibrationally set. That which you have pre-programmed into your life experience. The truth you are believing and the truth you are using right now. When I program an address into my GPS in the car, it just tells me where I am and where I'd rather be. And if Destiny figured out not only where I am, but where all of you are in relationship to where I am, and gave me not just one map, but gave me all of your maps, there's total chaos and confusion. This is all about, someone said to a child in front of me the other day, "You are not the center of the universe." I mean, did you hear that from your parents? I did. Except there's truth with a little t and truth with a capital T. And the capital T truth is you are the center of your universe. Your universe. It's your knowledge, your truth, your feelings, your thoughts, your beliefs that are the starting point. The law of attraction says that everything starts with you. You are your greatest point of attraction. But we often think that the chaos and the confusion of where we'd rather be, whether that's in relationship or in relationship with another human being, in relationship with our wealth and our finances, our relationship with our health and well-being, our relationship with self. We have to remember that the source of us, that God mind, already knows that and has given us consciousness. For me, choice, the ability to choose, is a great level of consciousness. It's a high level of consciousness because it says to me over and over and over, just pick one. Just pick one of the GPS settings and go with it. You're not going to get it wrong. It may take you a little while longer. It may take you a little bit shorter. But pick one. And the consciousness of choice says, and if it feels wrong, choose again. Every day we get up, we have the choice to begin again. The song Carrie just sang said that very thing. And so there is nothing that can take us very far from our path. But in our humanness and in our ego, we often think, wow, I'm way off in left field. I was in a whole different state, two of them actually, away from where I wanted to be. But nothing can take you very far from that path. You don't have to worry about getting lost. You have to understand that there is constant guidance within you over and over and over. And the choice is yours to listen or not, to obey or not, to trust or not. There's always a way. And though we often believe that there's only one straight and narrow path, and if I would stray from it, then I'll be lost forevermore, that's not truth. The basis of our entire life is freedom. And the objective or the purpose of our life experience is joy. And the result is then our growth, our personal expansion, our journey. And our central guidance system is taking us from where we are to where we'd rather be. And if you are in a state of joy, it'll be a short trip. But if you are in a state of confusion or frustration, or if you're angry about something, or if you're fearful about something, you may want to inquire or examine the choice that you are making and choose to begin again. Choose to feel something a little lighter, a little more gentle. I didn't bring my clicker, so if you'll advance to that next slide. The scripture is on your bulletin from Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, and it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path." Trust is something that is very aligned or akin with faith. I'd rather use the word trust because faith is something that's been really mixed up in my world of religiosity. Trust is something I know. I trust that the sun is going to come up every day. Whether I see it or not, I trust it's there. And when we are leaning not on our own humanness or our own little us, then we can recognize the greater part of us, that greater understanding, our second unity principle, that we are the essence of the divine spirit. You know, all native peoples who are more in tune with this big rock that we're floating on than we are, they have all been in relationship with Earth and Mother Nature, and they call upon and give thanks for their life by using the term creator. I live right next to sacred Indian burial grounds, and my native ancestors still come and circle that area, and I feel that vibration, if you will. And the native people come and have rituals and sacred burnings honoring those ancestors. And they often will use the word creator. In unity, we use the word co-creator, meaning we understand that there is one power and one presence, but we came from that. And we have the choice, the consciousness to still co-create with that. We don't have to feel lost because that means separation. That's the same terminology. But when we are in alignment with that one power and one presence, when we are co-creating with that, then we understand that that part of us, that greater part of us, is what we would call the absolute self or absolute source of us. It was what you were before you came into this physical body. And even though you are right now focused in your personality, the larger part of you is still that absolute self, that all-knowing, that omnipotent presence, that larger part of you that is the divine spark, the inherent peace of source. And you have awareness of that, whether you have realization of it or not. Hear that. You have awareness of it, whether you have realization of it or not, because you have emotion. And that emotion is what is guiding you. It's indicating your alignment or your discord with the vibration that is the larger part of you. When you are in a state of joy or bliss or just contentment and peace, you are more aligned than when you are in a place of fear or discontent, of worry or frustration. And that source within you, that one power, that one presence, that GPS, that destiny within you, it never changes. That's the great thing. It never will fail you. Now, when I am on the road and I plug in something and I take a wrong turn, and if you'll look at your daily word one more time, you'll see that one of the phrases says, I turn my missteps over to God. Every day is a journey in and of itself, and if I make mistakes, I can actively move from penitence to forgiveness through the grace of God. When I make a wrong turn, my GPS in the car, destiny, just catches up with me. She never calls me an idiot. She never chastises me. She never says, I cannot believe you've done this again. She just says, rerouting. Now, I will share with you, when I moved it to a certain accent, it sounded a little bit sarcastic. I almost heard her give this sigh, like, rerouting again. But our fourth unity principle helps us understand that when we will just take a moment, take a breath, come into that energy of prayer and meditation, we get realigned, rerouted, recalculated into the knowing that is truth with a capital T. There's a daily word that is printed out on my refrigerator, and it says this: everywhere you look, you will see life in transition. God is in every part of this ever-changing world, and God is within you as you grow and change. And whether it be the books you read, the movies you see, or the worship services you attend, there is the awareness of insight and inspiration for your transformation. It goes on to say, the greatest influence is the presence of that power within. The presence that nudges you to expand your view of life, to courageously step out of your comfort zone, to respond to change with openness and enthusiasm. Life's experiences spur your spiritual growth and teach you to rely on the guidance within. When we start feeling that impetus of change, we can feel a little bit uncomfortable. We can feel a little bit lost, can't we? Something happens, some big change in life happens, and we thought we had it all mapped out. We thought we were going in the direction of our highest good, and all of a sudden, something or someone comes out of nowhere and changes that. Well, truth with a little T there. It changes. And then we feel very, very lost. So the first thing we have to try, of course, in our humanness, we try doing more of what we used to do because we got this far doing that thing. So let me try that some more. Albert Einstein called that insanity. He said insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and expecting a different result. In this time of Lent, we have to let go of what we have known. We have to let go so that we step into that change. The map, the answer, the GPS system is within us at all times. And if we would just take that deep breath and notice, come back into that prayerful, meditative place, it's that part of us which knows it's only through our forgiveness of self and others that we can find our path of freedom. Carl Jung said, mistakes are, after all, the foundations of truth. And if a man does not know what a thing is, it is at least an increase in knowledge if he knows what it is not. We have to see that change not as something bad. If you notice, none of our principles ever use the word bad or evil. It says it is what it is and it is good. So the first step in freeing ourselves from our painful yesterdays is to forgive ourselves, to forgive whatever this is, so that we can then be given a forward understanding, a forward motion. Your emotions will always let you know what you're feeling on your way to that which you want. And you can tell by the way you feel. So, when Destiny keeps saying rerouting, 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 and then once in a while she'll say, do a U-turn here. In Oklahoma, that's against the law. And so I have to take a right turn or a left turn and figure it out. And she just keeps saying rerouting, rerouting, rerouting until I shut her up. And then I'm lost. And I have to turn her back on. And that's kind of what we do internally, isn't it? We say, I hear that still small voice, but, I'm not still, so I don't really hear it. We have to first and foremost make peace with where we are. Easier said than done at times, but it is the key to everything. Making peace with where we are. Because where you are is where you are, and it's just fine. It is just fine where you are. But if you're mad at yourself about where you are, if you are blaming or shaming yourself about where you are, it's going to be harder to close that gap between where you are and where you'd rather be. What I've noticed about Destiny, as I just said, is that she never chastises me. She never says, you're where? How did you get there? Why are you there? She just says, okay, I notice where you are. Now let's get you where you'd rather be. She never says, what are you doing there? Have you not listened to me before? God never says that to us either. That divine spark, that divine knowing, that still small voice never asks us or chastises us. It just says, I notice, I am aware of you at all times. And it is the hope of your glory, the God of your being, the source of all that is not criticizing you about where you are, but rather, as Eric Butterworth, the great author, says, is just calling you forth. The universe is calling you forth, inspirationally calling you to where you would rather be. Life is a journey into the unknown, and change is the only constant on that journey. The challenge for us is to pay attention. You can turn that GPS off all you want, but trust me, I know you're going to turn it back on. Otherwise, you'll be stuck on the other side of that mountain trying to figure out how to get over it, around it, through it. We have to take that moment to pay attention, to heal whatever needs to heal, to grieve whatever we have lost as a testimony to how precious it was. And just like Dora the Explorer and her little friend Map, I mean, you can't get more creative for a character named Map, it is a song that little character sings. And the lyrics are, if there's a place you got to go, I'm the one you need to know. I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map. If there's a place you got to get, I can get you there, I bet, because I'm the map. That is that still small voice that is always within us, rerouting us when we get off our path, getting us back to that place, and understanding that staying faithful to the certainty that we live in a spiritual and meaningful reality, we are called by whatever change shows up to authentically trust and surrender, to let go, to live into this time of Lent, and then to answer that still small voice, to answer the universe's call. Life is not this problem to be solved. Rather, I believe life is a mystery to be lived. And if you've ever heard that old phrase, it's not about the destination, it's all about the journey. Hello, Dora. You are the explorer in this, and you will never get lost if you trust. Trusting who and what you are as the very essence of who and where you came from. It's always good to be home. Thank you. God bless.